They come from the software, through programs, apps, and CD discs, to these pastimes, computer games. Their format, practically everything. To play any day, to play for everyone's entertainment, their skills, and their brains, to defend them from their boredoms. They say a Mad Hatter lived inside Cyber Wonderland and input computer games for pleasure. And guess what? I intend to see how well they hold up. Game on! Thought I would forget the classic computer games compilation? Well, I'm still not done with any of them. There are still lots of games, both old and new, that are worth talking about in all shapes and sizes. The rules remain the same. No letter grades, just personal opinions, and only one game from each development company. There's no time to lose, so let's play as many games as possible. Welcome to another episode of the Wonder Reviews. It's time to add a new entry to the Diary of the Computer Games. Looks like we got a mystery game on our hands. The Scooby-Doo games were made by the Learning Company, the same developer who made the Reader Rabbit games. The plot of the game is that there's a stone dragon terrorizing everybody in China, and it's up to Mystery Incorporated to catch the monster and unmask the culprit. So when you start playing the game, I have to admit, it is pretty cool on solving a Scooby-Doo mystery inside a computer game. If you are watching any episode of Scooby-Doo, part of the show's charm is the comedy, darkness, and even figuring out the culprit behind these monstrous activities. In the Stone Dragon case, you do get that mystery element by collecting clues and talking potential suspects. However, there is a catch on some of these mini-games. In order to unlock them, you have to give Shaggy and Scooby some Scooby snacks, being the lovable scaredy cats that they are. There's a free tower minigame where you have to collect as many Scooby-Doo snacks as you can, and then head for the exit before the dragon gets you. Now, this requirement doesn't apply to all games during the adventure, but you will need them to unlock new locations. But when you do play them, they're actually well executed on their own. I played them on hard mode to challenge myself and the gameplay, and I was impressed with the level of knowledge that it's been implemented in this Scooby-Doo adventure. You got some other matching games like arranging color patterns or lanterns, math problems on cooking recipes, and remembering the musical instruments and their notes through your ears. In other words, the game does succeed as an educational game. The only complaint I would have with it is that the Stone Dragon's capture was really underwhelming. I wasn't expecting some big elaborate trap from Fred or anything, it's just that it was defeated by Noodles. But other than that, this was a blast on playing a mystery-solving Scooby game. It looks amazing and is fundamentally scholastic. You can always count on Scooby-Doo in the game because we know they'll catch that villain.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo!
It's that time again to read over another Living Books interactive game. However, unlike the previous ones we discussed in the past, this one is not based on an existing children's book. Ruff's Bone was actually made for the game. The story is rather simple. A dog named Ruff is going after his bone after his master plays fetch with him. But the bone just keeps jumping from one strange place to the next. At first it'll land in the neighbor's yard, but then suddenly it'll go deep underground, followed by a cave filled with cave people, then it will go up in the clouds, and later abducted by aliens. It's weird how one bone managed to bounce its way to strange locations. My favorite part during the play-along is everybody's reactions towards the UFO. It wasn't hiding in plain sight, it was out in the open where the whole planet could see.
Newsflash, a UFO has been sighted over our city. Repeat, a UFO has been sighted.
In other news, zombies are rising from Florida, and Godzilla is playing jump rope at the Pacific Ocean. Now here's Shiro with the weather. Ruff doesn't even question everything around him because all he wants is to get his bone back for his master. Though, to be fair, it does end with Ruff having to deal with his bone going on a never-ending run again. It just makes the ending silly. While it's not one of the most popular living books like Dr. Seuss, Arthur, and more, there's still a lot here on crafting an original interactive storybook. The animation is quite impressive, the locations are creative, and many of the other creatures and people have nice cartoony looks, expressions, and personalities. If this was based on a real children's book, kids will have a fun time reading it. What can I say except Ruff's Bone is a good dog story.
Now where'd I put that bone?
Oh yeah, it feels good to be back. I already talked about the first Portal game and I liked it, from the puzzles to the villain herself, GLaDOS. When the sequel was released, everybody was saying it's one of the best video game sequels of all time, and yeah, they're right. The main character, Chell, is sent back to the Aperture Science Center where she's forced to do more testing from the new and improved GLaDOS. However, Chell gets help from a personality core named Wheatley, and says the best way to defeat GLaDOS again is by plugging him into the control center for a core transfer. In the sequel, there is a ton of depth that went into the laboratories and the villain herself. As you play during the second act of the game, you hear these pre-recorded announcements from the lab's founder, Kate Johnson, on what was the purpose behind Aperture and why was it shut down. What's even shocking is that there's a complex backstory behind GLaDOS' creation every time King Johnson brings up his partner, Carolyn. Like both of them share a special connection. For the presentation, there is definitely a lot of change from your last visit. The laboratory itself is in utter ruin with some broken technology, and there's a deep underground level where everything is abandoned. The puzzles are much harder than in the first one, and it relies a lot of critical thinking when solving them. There's a new gameplay feature involving pain cells that gives you special abilities on jumping through portals. The orange ones give you super speed, blue makes you jump higher, and white makes every servant accessible to use your portal gun. And although Chell still doesn't talk to GLaDOS or Wheatley, the interaction between them does feel legitimate.
You just jumped. But never mind. Say apple. Apple. Okay, you know what? That's close enough.
This was the last time we ever heard from the Aperture Science Laboratories, and there's no telling if there are still secrets that have yet to be uncovered. The closest we got from a Portal 3 is the LEGO Dimensions level, but that just ends with Chell and Wheatley going to the LEGO portal. But as it is, Portal 2 is still another huge success to Valve. It deserves the best cake ever made for making the best video game sequel.
Hey, you made it just in time!
Oh boy, it's JumpStart time! We did a 3rd grade level adventure game, we did the first ever Spy Master series, and this one, we're going on a field trip, or as they like to call it, an ultimate field trip. Budley and the JumpStart kids are in a theme park called Adventure World where you pretty much play a bunch of sports games like skateboarding, surfing, kayaking, rock climbing, bike riding, and more. There's no plot, no main bad guy, not even a goal that these characters want to achieve. In addition, there are no academic games on this ultimate field trip, which, to be honest, is one of my personal downsides to this JumpStart adventure because when I think of JumpStart, I was hoping that Botley in the game would teach the gamers about math, science, history, and more. The only time we ever get to learn anything is the arcade game, which is a fish version of Pac-Man. You have to eat as many shells as possible before the shark eats you, but you must also solve some problems above the screen and eat the right answer. Get it right and you'll earn some points which you'll need to unlock the sports games. They don't really have their own subject to teach you, you just have to collect some power-ups and score some points until either time runs out or you cross the finish line. After you finish the level, you have to pick between the headline, picture, fun fact, or a few others on filling the newsletter. Which means if you want to complete the whole bulletin, you have to do the level all over again, several times. Unfortunately, that motive wears off quickly because the sports games do get repetitive. There's a skateboarding level where I struggled the most and couldn't get it right. No matter how fast I go or how I time my moves, Joe keeps falling off easily. And I'm supposed to score some big points in order to unlock the skateboard newsletter.
Time's up, my friend.
Hey, don't sweat it. We did great.
The rest of the other sports I got through okay. The gameplay is good and the visuals look cool, but since most of the games are just plain sports with not much substance, I didn't feel eager on completing any of the newsletters or the entire game. There's not even a special ending for any of it. When I play something like JumpStart 3rd game, it contained a wide variety of school subjects, rogue robots, and a massive goal on saving the world and reality. If Ultimate Field Trip implemented some of the academic stuff like they did in the arcade, it would have easily made itself stand out the most than any kid's sports video game. It's an okay game for what it is, but I want to stretch it as far as to say it's ultimate.
You won!
Oh boy, I never thought I had to try out one of these games. If I can be honest, I'm not much of a horror fan. Me and slasher-based movies or games don't really mix. Granted, I have played and enjoyed Bendy and the Ink Machine and loved the Gremlins movie, but Bendy didn't heavily rely on jump scares like Freddy, and you can make it through the game okay. Actually, the funny thing is, I realized something that helped me understand why mascot horror games and films are 10 times better than twisted childhood horrors. If it's directly from an existing property, it's going to suck hard. But if it's inspired by something, it's going to be rich and grow a fan base. And Amanda the Adventurer fits the latter. Now that I decided to play one of Amanda's VHS tapes, I did end up having a good time with this game. You're up in the attic and play a tape of a canceled cartoon show called Amanda the Adventure. This is obviously a spoof to the popular Nick Jr. show, Dora the Explorer. She talks to the viewers, has an animal sidekick. There's even an arrow cursor on the screen to click on something, which doesn't make sense since it's happening on a TV instead of a computer. In fact, you don't really learn Spanish in this parody. When you play the game at first glance, it seems like you're just watching a children's show with computer animation made from the 90s. But when you stop or finish the tape, you see a toy perfectly set on the table, and you have to solve the puzzle that corresponds to the clues from the Amanda episode like an escape room, such as heating the oven for an apple pie or coloring a coloring book of the places you click on. However, the more you solve Amanda's riddles, the more you realize something is off with the tapes. It almost feels like Amanda is really talking to you. Even her supposed friend Wooly tried to warn you that you had to destroy the tapes and get out of there. What's more, that she seemed to be unhinged when going on these adventures of hers. When you click or type the wrong thing constantly, she gets really upset even if the tape's intended to mess with the sceneries.
I don't want to go there. I said I don't want to go in there!
Well, there's somewhat an investigation for this mysterious investigation. If you look deeper into the tapes and solve hidden puzzle, you'll earn a chance to win a special color VHS tape that many gamers refer to as lore tapes. They contain live action footage on how Amanda the Adventure was created and why was it cancelled. It started off as a live action show and the creator, Sam Colton, made his daughter the star of the series. It was so popular, the studio, Hamlin Entertainment, decided to turn it into an anime series. Basically, it's like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood evolved into Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. However, when the cartoon adaptation surfaced, parents were complaining about the show for its bad morality, such as using or playing with sharp knives with no adult supervision, or talking about death in a deranged, not-so-subtle manner. What's worse is that the creator and daughter mysteriously disappeared, as well as some kids who enjoy watching Amanda. And it might have something to do with the tapes. There are even some speculations that Hamlin might have done some demonic rituals on the show against Sam or anyone else's will. And this is where the scary factor comes into play here. When you play the Everything Rots tape, Amanda will force you to answer if whether or not everything rots. No matter what answer you get a game over and get jump scared by this horrifying Amanda-like entity monster. I have no idea yet where it came from or what it wants, but it is definitely one of the scariest moments in the game. There's another disturbing ending where you play the tape again, but if you find the pause button, Amanda will ask you if you want to help the lonely kitten. If you say yes, there's a light in the trapdoor, but you're teleported into the butcher's place from the cartoon with the face meat beside you. And when you think about it, you're not only part of the show during that ending, but there might be some truth to those objects and furnitures that have those big eyes. In theory, they might be the disappearing victims who watched the show. And it may also apply that Amanda, the cartoon character, and the creator's daughter, Rebecca, may turn out to be the literal same person. Do you see, Twisted Public Domains? Nobody wants to play with you. This is how you horror. This is how you horror. Yeah, there's still a lot of lore involving this game, and this is the reason why it has grown so popular. Players want to solve the mystery and figure out if Amanda and Wooly are good or evil, and most importantly, is there a way to find and save Rebecca and the missing children? Well, we already know the game's becoming a trilogy, so we'll see if all of our questions will be answered. As for Amanda's first adventure, it was a very good start. Now that I learned why it was a big hit on horror games, and with the power of fan art and music videos, this is an adventure that will never, ever rot. Really? Another one? When it comes to point-and-click interacting computer games, Frambo is possibly one of the most darkest video games I have ever played. I did hear some good word of mouth about it a long time ago and how it's like a twisted psychological Alice in Wonderland-esque adventure. It's so curiouser beyond curiouser. It's about a girl named Frambo who experienced something horrifying, her parents dying right before her eyes. She gets sent to a mental hospital where her doctor gives her these red pills to ease her stress. But when she eats one, she starts to see these creepy and disturbing hallucinations and demonic spirits. And when she eats a second one, everything goes back to normal. Feeling homesick and no one else to turn to, Fran decides to head home all by herself while finding her cat and best friend, Mr. Midnight. Everything about this experience is like you're playing another Tim Burton reimagining of Alice if he actually decides to adapt the McGee version. Throughout most of the game, especially when Fran eats the pills, there are a bunch of dark imageries that make you ask yourself, what is going on, or what am I looking at? Does that make it a bad thing? No, because the psychological adventure also serves as a mystery game. In order to solve these puzzles, you need to use the pills back and forth to find items you need or unlock secret passageways. Plus, the game does contain some heavy themes about life, death, and hope, which gives character depth to Fran and some of the other strange characters she encountered. There's a skeleton man named Itwer who says to be her guardian and imaginary friend, the conjoined twins who have been cursed on sticking together forever, and Palontras is the good up-living doctor that looks like Falcor from the Neverending Story. But no matter if these characters are in the real world, a fantasy realm, or in a hallucination, the settings are incredible to look at. Yes, some of the dark stuff can be bloody and creepy, but they're more creatively bloody and creepy. It's kind of like in Princess Mononoke where there's a lot of death and blood and other dark elements, but you're so into the world building, story, themes, you want to know how everything will turn out in the end. The only chapter that feels more bright and less gruesome is the third chapter when Fran and Mr. Midnight enter a nature realm called, that name. However, it still shares the same whimsy, creativity, and straightness as the dark stuff. And instead of having the red pills to contrast the environments, there's a weather compass that changes seasons. What's even surprising is that there's a short minigame at the end of each chapter with a different art style. So yeah, this is an effective dark game. Perhaps too effective of what kind of rabbit hole you'll fall into. This is a video game that will turn the world and reality upside down. Okay, we gotta take a break from all the horror stuff. We're going back to the wonderful realm of humongous entertainment, but this time with a little collaboration. What you're seeing is true. There was a time when Humongous Entertainment teamed up with Nick Jr. on creating many Blue's Clues computer games. We all know the original show. You meet Steve and a Blue Dog Blue, where they play Blue's Clues to figure out what would Blue like to do today. In the games themselves, they made 2 adventures that are based on 2 popular episodes from the show, The Treasure Hunt and Blue's Birthday Adventure. As you would expect from the latter, Blue is celebrating her birthday, and it's your mission to play Blue's Clues to find 3 paw prints to solve the riddle. What's interesting about this particular Humongous game, it contains 2 discs with a total of 4 birthday adventures. While the others have different playthroughs, locations, and riddles, but when you go to the kitchen, there's a side plot within each of them where you had to help Mr. Salt and Mrs. Pepper bake a cake. One playthrough had you mix the bowl with ingredients, and then another one where you had to pour the batter, and finally bake a blue cake shaped like a paw print. If you remember that song, you get a cookie.
Pora, pora, pora.
For the rest of the gameplay, it follows the same structure as a regular Humongous game, like clicking on some random stuff for fun, and to make it a bit more challenging, there are some noisemakers scattered around the game. Also, there are lots of other minigames you have to play to either find the next clue, or help Blue's friends make presents for her. These include collecting flowers for Shovel and Pail, spotting toy differences, finding Turquoise the Turtle, making a birthday card, solving Tickety Tock's jigsaw puzzles, and more. At the end of each playthrough, you get to play some birthday minigames for figuring out Blue's Clues. They really did the most on making a computer game based on a popular children's show. But sadly, there are no plans on porting them to some of the modern consoles since Humongous Entertainment cut ties with Nick Jr. years ago. And Blue has already gotten herself a reboot series and is still running to this day. As for her first birthday adventure, it definitely helped us on how smart we really are.
It isn't so bad being a chicken after all, is it?
Oh, yes!
Okay, I'll be honest, I can't remember where I got this game. I think this is one of those CD-ROM games that came in a cereal box. This is an M&M's game called Candy College. And when you think of M&Ms, you might think there will be some wacky adventures of the M&M characters. But trust me, this is not that type of M&M's adventure. Not even a college to learn about candy. This is just an activity center where you just play some typical mini-games like word search, a matching game, jigsaw puzzles, trivia, and putting M&Ms in their respective color bucket. And each one is more boring than the last. None of it was a lot of fun to me. I do have fond memories of some educational grade school games like JumpStart and Humongous, but this one likely didn't leave an impact to anything. There is really no point on plugging in the M&M's community or its characters. You can cut them out of the equation and this game will still be the same. The only difference is that there are multiple M&M recipes you can bake at home, but that's it. If they have the mascots that actually interact with the player, this wouldn't feel so empty. Seriously, every M&M's commercial in existence would be a better game adaptation than this. Was I really expecting anything from this? Probably not. I guess that since the M&M mascots are so memorable and lovable, I assume their own wacky scenarios would translate well into other forms of media. But this won't answer our question why we will never get an M&M's movie or a cartoon series. It's bland, forgettable, and makes the other M&M's video games look like Mario games. Let's move on to the next one. Another activity center? Okay. Here's one from Crayola Crowns called Vehicle Voyage. However, unlike the last computer game we just talked about, there's something charming and harmless about this coloring video game. It's not really much, you only have 3 options to draw: outer space, earth vehicles, or just a blank sheet of paper. No goals to achieve, just draw and paint your entire canvas. There's like more than 30 crayons you can choose from. Plus, there's a texture option which allows your paper to look more colorful, surreal, and trippy. What's even cooler is that the drawings are given a 3D look every time you paint something. It does feel like your creation is popping out of the screen. When you finish coloring the space or vehicle pages, you'll get a cute little 3D animation for a job well done. Now, is there a special requirement you need to do or a diploma you'll get at the end? No. This is a coloring game that lets you paint whatever you want. I don't care if the grass aren't green in my artwork, I just like to see it become purple with red and blue stripes, or green and violet polka dots. There are endless possibilities what colors you should add for each artwork. This is definitely one of those games that will make you feel like a kid again. It's vibrant, cheerful, and it's an important lesson why colors bring life to everything. Well, I already talked about the first 2 games of the trilogy. I might as well wrap things up with the final chapter. It's Sam & Max: The Devil's Playhouse. While I don't consider it to be as wild and mad as Beyond Time and Space, this is still a pretty good follow-up and it did end the series on a high note. It opens with this Twilight Zone-like narrator explaining that we have the power to help Sam and Max on their mission to save the world again.
Only you, my friends, will possess the ability to save the entire universe.
Wow, that's like what I've been doing with the other video games. They get invaded by a space gorilla named General Skunkape. And I just realized when playing this, the gaming company who remastered the games is named after this guy. Anyways, he's flying to find the Devil's Toy Box because it contains some magical toys that he can use to take over the universe. And according to the mole people, Max is the chosen one who has the ability to control the Devil's Toys. When I started playing the final chapter to the entire Adventure series, I noticed it heavily relied on the heart between Sam and Max as partners. Whenever something bad ever happens to Max, Sam would feel devastated on what just happened to his friend, such as someone removing his brain or turning him into a Cthulhu-like monster. So he would have to do whatever it takes to bring his bunny buddy back to normal. They've been best friends since childhood and they always stick together when going on adventures. Even their ancestors continue their teamwork despite everyone coming after them for the Devil's Toy Box. I definitely like that Max finally has a significant role in the gameplay. Aside from him becoming president and a god to the sea monkeys, I only remember his purpose on giving some game hints to Sam. His toy powers in this are so cool and imaginative, like a Viewmaster that can see the future, or Clay Putty that shapeshifts into anything from a picture. Sam's gameplay still remains the same as the other 2 games where you have to talk or use an item to solve something. However, this is actually the first time the DeSoto card doesn't get used as a minigame. It's only when Sam needs to pick 2 specific items to unlock a new location. Also, one of the bizarre and out-of-place character moments appeared in the 3rd chapter. When Max's brain goes missing, Sam becomes a deranged bad cop that cross-examines a bunch of witnesses to get some answers on the brain's whereabouts. Just seeing and hearing his breakdown is pretty shocking.
I did see something unusual and brain-related a little while back. Spill!
When you play a Sam & Max game, you have to at least expect some strange occurrences that happen throughout the adventure. Like the mighty pharaohs, Selma Max turns their city into Egyptian habitat, Max's inner bodies looking like a house, or the duo have to run away from a swarm of zombie Sam clones. and some of the old and new characters do have some bigger roles than in the previous games. The mole people are the knowledge bearers and guardians of the toy box. Girl Stinky and Grandpa Stinky are going through a rough patch of what they want in life. The ghost of Mama Bosco runs a high-tech facility that crafts some unbelievable inventions. There's a new character named Sal who's like this chill, mutated cockroach. Even the narrator has a lot more depth about who he is. I won't give away the twist, it's just mind-blowing. The Devil's Playhouse definitely knows how to end the game as a trilogy. Here's hoping there will be another time and place where we'll see some future original adventures of our favorite dog and rabbit. It was an honor on solving the case with Sam and Max, the freelance police. Okay everyone, that's it for this year's computer games review. Thank you so much for joining me on this wild, imaginative journey. Now, it's time to take a break from the PC and go outside for some fresh air. But don't worry, we will travel through cyberspace again with these types of video games. I'm mad at her, Patrick. Now if you'll excuse me, June is coming. And it can only mean one thing. Curious Month! Huh? Hello? Can you hear me? Wooly? We don't have much time. You shouldn't have played our game. You gotta delete it before... Oh. Nope, I know how this works. I'm not gonna touch this computer. I'm just gonna... Oh no! So, is he gonna call us or what? Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this, check out these other videos, or feel free to like, comment, and subscribe for more upcoming reviews and other projects. I'll see you soon.